a little longer, but.
All right, hey, we're live. It is DawgsHQ post-game right after Georgia's 45-3 win over Ball State. Jake, I want to do a little bit of a identity check with this Dogs team 2 games into the season now. You fact-check me here. They start a little bit slow on offense. They get the running game going a little bit slow, but they finish well. And the defense might be just as good as it's ever been under Kirby Smart. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think that's probably pretty accurate. I still don't think we know a ton about this team. I mean, you look at the slow starts. That's a carryover from one game to the next. But again, you draw back to slow starts or sluggish performances against teams like this last year. I don't think they've been tested defensively a whole lot, but I do think that they kind of had a little bit of a killer instinct on that side of the ball. I mean, you saw when Mekhi Muse returned that punt. The defense kind of caught a different gear, forced 3 turnovers in 4 possessions. You started seeing tip passes, guys hit behind the line of scrimmage, big hits, everything. And Georgia kind of took the game over from there with Muse kind of setting the tone, the defense kind of following up, and then the offense kind of followed suit after that. I mean, 45 unanswered points in the second and third quarter is going to win you a lot of ball games. Now, the schedule gets tougher now. You got South Carolina next week, but I would agree with that assessment thus far. I just still think we've got a lot to learn about this team.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's just good to kind of check in on what the team looks like week to week and find these common threads. Carson Beck with a little bit of a slower start, but he hit just a beautiful deep pass to was it C.J. Allen or C.J. Smith? I mean,
it was Arian
get him
Smith.
Loose. Who'd he hit that pass to, Jake?
It was Arian Smith, a 37-yarder.
That's right.
He hit him on back-to-back passes.
That's right, and he looked sharp from that point on. So I almost wonder if Beck just needed a little bit of that grease under the gears there to really start feeling comfortable as the starting guy in this offense.
Yeah, I mean, that did seem to kind of get him going. He hit Arian Smith for 13 yards before that big one, but that kind of got it off and rolling. I thought his most impressive drive was probably the one that put him up by 21. Oh, wait a minute. That was the Dylan Bell drive. It was the one that maybe put him up by 30. I can't remember. I'll get it right in a minute. But either way, there was one drive where he hit a third down to C.J. Smith, and then he hit another one to Ra Thomas. Yeah, he was kind of hitting – he hit this, and then he hit that. And then, all of a sudden you started to really see them kind of, get the ball rolling, with stuff like that. I mean, the pass, another good one was the third down ball to Marcus Rosemy-Jackson with the blitz in his face. Those are confidence builders. Those are kind of, hey, let me trust what I've been coached to do. Because, it's not like you're just sitting there watching that guy catch that ball. You're getting blasted as you throw it. And then you just can't say enough about Mekhi Muse and his work on special teams today, Wes. He did something that I thought was really impressive, even more so impressive than the punt return, which is incredibly impressive, was he had a return kind of, I believe it was his very next one. He kind of moves over, and you can tell he kind of sees the ball in the air, and he stops. And he kind of lets the ball travel a little further, and then he catches it on the move because he's got a guy bearing down on him so that he can make that guy miss and make something out of it. There's just an instinct there in the return game and with the ball in his hands that you can't teach.
Yeah, I put on our board, walk-ons that are under 6 feet tall are the lifeblood of the Georgia football dynasty thus far. Mekhi Muse is something else, man. I can't say enough about Georgia's defense today. Y'all say what you want to. It was just Ball State. Kentucky gave up, I believe, 14 points to these guys. Georgia gives up a field goal, but the turnovers that Georgia was able to manufacture here with Starks, Chaz, Tyke. I mean, Chaz's pick was the catch of the day as far as I'm concerned, just the awareness to get that ball bouncing off of a foot. Kirby Smart and Will Muschamp, Glenn Schumann, they've coached this defense up to really find the ball no matter where it is.
Not 100% sure that ball didn't catch Chaz. That was one of the weirdest interceptions I think I've ever seen. Ball kind of bounces off his calf and straight back up. But, Georgia was putting a lot of pressure on that offense there after that punt. I don't think it was just the situation of, a comedy of errors. I mean, the Tyke Smith pick was one that Georgia got his hand on. And the pick by Malachi Starks, it really looked like he kind of baited him into that, like baited him into kind of throwing it downfield, and he went and got it. And then the one to Chaz was one where, Georgia just continues to kind of take away the first read and do a good job there. It's no doubt, it's no coincidence in my mind that Smile Munden being back in full, playing a large number of snaps, made this defense look a little bit different today.
Yeah. Any word on Javon Bullard, Jake?
No, he did return to the sideline with a walking boot on. Kirby will speak right here where I'm at here in just a minute.
Yeah.
So that we'll learn about that. Also Kristen Miller left the game at one point. Tyron Ingram-Dawkins is down on the sideline during that game with a boot on and a scooter. It looks like he probably had some sort of procedure. Austin Blasky, with a right knee. Georgia's banged up right now, and I'll be interested to see kind of what Javon Bullard's status is. You're hoping to you're hoping to avoid that dreaded high ankle sprain with him for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, Jake, I'll let you get to covering Kirby. Appreciate it, man.
One thing I do want to say real quick, Wes, I know a lot of folks are really worked up about the run game. And listen, it may not get there, okay? It may not get there at all. But one thing I do want to point out is we were talking about this exact same thing after 2 or 3 games last year is, hey, this Georgia run game's not doing it. They're not getting there. I do think it's something where Georgia's going to kind of find its footing there. And as these guys play together a little bit more, that left side hasn't played together much. Ernest Green hasn't played much at all. I do think Georgia's going to settle in and be a little bit better in the run game. I think Dylan Bell provided a little bit of a spark there. I think Roderick Robinson is getting more and more comfortable there. And I see Zane O'Brien. I saw you guys were at the game today. I saw Zane on Facebook. I hope he's doing well. Georgia's got some time to get this run game worked out. I think they just need to come in here next week and play really well against South Carolina.
Hey, man, all hands on deck. They got Dylan Bell back there for a rushing touchdown today, so Georgia's going to do what it has to do. Appreciate it, Jake. More coming at DawgsHQ.com and on our message board from Roe and Palmer Toms down there at the game. We'll catch up with you soon, man. Thanks.
All right, bud.
All right, so Georgia gets the win 45-3 over Ball State. If y'all want to keep some questions coming in here, I'll do what I can to field them. My thoughts are as follows. Carson Beck looked a little slow getting started. He was taking those check downs, throwing kind of some dink and dunk passes. I don't know if that was by design or if that was what Beck just felt like he needed to do. But as I mentioned with Jake, that throw to Arian Smith kind of opened things up a little bit. So that was encouraging to see that Beck took that shot. And then Georgia finishes that first half on a 31-0 tear after starting out pretty slow. So good for Beck to get going. I still think fans are totally fair to think that they want to see a little bit more speed, a little bit more automatic offense from this team through 2 games. Now, like Rose said, this time last year, we're saying the same thing about Georgia. Where's the offensive push up front for the running game? Maybe, the exception was that Oregon game where everything worked. I'm not so sure that Ducks defense wasn't ready to go. But, you look at that Mizzou game, you look at Samford, you look at some of the other games Georgia was a little bit slow in. The rushing game and the rush blocking just wasn't there. And it took a game like Missouri to light a fire under this offensive line, and it defined the rest of the season. So there's no telling what this offensive line can do for Georgia, the push that it can generate in a game where it needs to push it and needs to generate it. You just hope it doesn't catch you by surprise and catch you a little too late. Because so far in 2 games, Georgia is still a little slow coming out of the chutes. Now, they were a little faster this time. Last week, I would argue that it was an entire first half offensively that was frustrating for Georgia. This week, maybe more of just 1 quarter, okay? And then Beck got a little bit loose. You get Dylan Bell back there. You get the game going. You're feeling like you're skiing pretty well downhill on offense. So Georgia starts out with a scoreless first half. They missed that field goal after the 9-play, 42-yard drive. But then they get things going with the punt return touchdown for Mekhi Muse. They get a pick from Malachi Starks, and they turn that into a touchdown with Beck's pass to Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint. Great to see him back there. And then you get that freak interception from Chaz Chambliss, and Georgia again turns that into a touchdown in 2 plays. Beck goes just slice and dice, goes to Delp, goes to Dylan Bell, for the rushing touchdown, actually. So Georgia goes up 21-0 there. The field goal, that offensive penalty that they called was a little bit frustrating. I'm not so sure about that when Georgia went up 24-0. But yet again, you get a pick from Tyke Smith as Georgia gets the ball back, and then you again turn that into a touchdown. So the biggest silver lining, I won't even call it a silver lining, the biggest positive from Georgia today, you saw that the Dogs can turn turnovers into points. You saw that every single time they got a pick, they got points off of it, and that's huge. So we'll see what Carson Beck can do. Personally, I'm a little frustrated that we didn't see more of Brock Vandagriff, and I'm not trying to manufacture any kind of controversy here, but Brock only got one drive. We know that Gunnar Stockton is talented, and we know that he's the third-string guy, but why let them go back there and battle for just a drive and a drive? Let's see what Brock Vandagriff can do, because I think he's got a lot to prove as well. So that was a little frustrating. I know it's kind of picking nits here, but I thought that he could have played a little bit more. What would Muse look like playing running back? Alex Waller wants to know. I think that guy can do whatever he wants to do. I said it earlier. Walk-ons that are sub 6 foot are the lifeblood of Georgia's offensive dynasty the last few years with Stetson Bennett and now Mekhi Muse. Let him cook, man. Let's see what he can do. Jason Jackson says the offensive line has to open better running lanes. I don't disagree. They're a little slow trying to figure that out right now. And it's a little surprising, but maybe Coach Searles will get them sorted out. But they got to know that this is big boy ball now. It's the SEC. I know it's South Carolina. Y'all want to overlook the Fighting Beamers and think that Georgia's just going to walk in and handle business. South Carolina can be a little annoying, a little aggravating. They've got some dudes at spots, not the depth that Georgia has. But if you start the game out the way you did the past couple weeks against South Carolina, they're going to make it a little bit more interesting and crawl up on you a little bit quicker than you probably want them to, and make it interesting deeper into the game than you probably think that they should. The O-line has been disappointing. I mean, there's been a lot that's been disappointing about Georgia's offense. Dylan Bell drops a touchdown pass. That penalty was a little suspect when they called the offensive pass interference on Marcus Rosemy-Jack Saint. That wiped out a touchdown there. But there are some things with Georgia's offense that are not that fun right now. Carson Beck took a while to warm up, and I thought that he would go right into this game, and I thought that maybe he got some of that indecisiveness out of his system against UT Martin, but it kind of kept going into this game, and it took him a little while to warm up. You can't have this every single game now, especially after South Carolina. Maybe UAB, you get one last chance to dial things in and tune things up a bit, but you've got to start a lot faster against South Carolina. That was the identity of Georgia's team last season, and certainly in 2021. You can't compare this team to other teams. They're all different. They're different rosters. But when Georgia really needed to turn things up, look at last year's South Carolina game. Look at that Oregon game. They had the ability to do it. We haven't seen it yet. We haven't seen that they can come out of the gates and go. Now, of course, just like Jake Rose said, you had games like Mizzou. You had games like Samford where Georgia was a little bit sluggish. They didn't run with authority just yet. And then they got better at that as the year goes on. But we still haven't seen what we saw from that 2022 team, where Georgia has a team that can come out of the gates, impose their will right away, and remind you, hey, we're the national champs. Georgia hasn't done it yet. South Carolina would be a great time to do it. Matthew C., welcome back. Good to see you. I don't have any drinks. I don't have anything right now. Just chatting with y'all. If you have any more questions, I'll take 2 more. If y'all want to chat. Jake Easterwood says, boom, 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 bang, 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 bang. Go Dogs. Josh Skelton, you're asking about that Bullard injury. He came back to the sideline in a boot, is what Jake Rose said. Not a cowboy boot. This was a walking boot. This wasn't a style choice. This was, precautionary looking at trying to heal up a foot kind of boot. I don't know what that's going to mean. I don't know if he's going to make it back for South Carolina, for UAB, or if they try to rest him up. You know, you may be looking at an Auburn game. I don't know. Kirby's talking right now, I believe. So we'll have more on that. Carson is accurate, but he seems very quick to check down and gives up on the deep ball too soon. Look, that's going to be the criticism of Carson Beck. And whether it's fair or not, that's the book that's been written about him 2 games in. That first drive, the first 2 drives for Carson Beck, didn't do a whole lot to dispel that notion. It didn't. He's throwing at the line of scrimmage. I think he had 1 throw to the sticks to Dominic Lovett for a first down. But other than that, early on in the game, he wasn't going deep too much. Still looked a little timid. Then he opened up, took a breath, got it to Arian Smith, got a couple balls to Oscar Delp. Brock Bowers dropped a pass today. I mean, that was like a sign of the end times right there. Are we in the apocalypse with Brock Bowers dropping a pass? That shouldn't happen. So some weird things offensively. Dylan Bell running the football, and he drops a touchdown pass. So Georgia's offense has some fits and starts. I thought that the Dogs looked better offensively than they did last week. They started a little bit faster. So maybe next week they'll start even faster than they did this week. Maybe halfway through the first quarter, you see Georgia start to speed up. And one factor that I don't want y'all to forget, this new clock rule, Georgia had 2 possessions in the first quarter. Because you get that first down, the clock keeps rolling. So let's see. One more question. What you got? Is Ladd a lock to play next week? Jason Jackson, lock it in. Ladd's going to be back next week. I'm just going to say it now. There could be a caveat. Maybe he tweaks something between now and then. If that happens, don't come after me. But I'm saying where he's at right now and the opponent and Georgia's offense just ramping back in, easing that boat into the water. You're going down the ramp, okay? Last week you didn't have Marcus Rosemy-Jackson. You get him back this week. 2 weeks, you don't have Ladd McConkey. You get him back in week 3. This offense is starting to assemble, okay? It's like Thanos' Infinity Gauntlet, all right? You're getting these gems back in. You're ready to pummel some SEC teams. So I think Ladd McConkey coming back will be good. You see a little bit more Dejan. And, hey, I want to highlight Roderick Robinson, who coming into the season didn't feel like he knew a lot about the Dogs offense. Today with that big touchdown run, he was physical. He looked decisive. He looked sure of where he was going. So that's a great sign for Georgia's rushing attack too. If he's able to understand this offense, you get Dylan Bell in the fold, you get Andrew Paul healthy, you get Dejon Edwards back healthy, and Kendall Milton starts to ease back in too. All of a sudden, you're looking at a pretty stout Georgia rushing attack, but it all starts up front. So Georgia's O-line has to be the guys that start things off for them, and they've got to come out of the gates firing on all cylinders. Cliche. I hate using that cliche, but that's what they got to do. And that is going to be the recipe for success for Georgia's rushing attack. Not just the guys in the backfield, but the guys up front clearing things out of the way. All right. I'm going to wrap things up here. Y'all please check us out on the Georgia Show Sunday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We always break down the game after a little time to rest and react and see what we thought about things after we've let them marinate a little bit. This is a little bit of an instant reaction, shooting from the hip. We're back on the Georgia Show, 8:30 p.m. right here on this YouTube channel. Y'all hit like and subscribe. And Bark After Dark every Monday at 9 p.m. A little bit more conversational, a little bit more open-ended. So if you want to know anything about the Dogs, go over to DawgsHQ.com today. We'll have story after story after story filing in as we look back on this 45-3 win over Ball State. Keep you updated on what Kirby says about Javon Bullard and on all those questions you have about this Georgia offense. They'll figure it out, I promise. Today was a good sign of things to come. They just got to get better incrementally each game, and I think they're going to do that. Y'all hit like and subscribe if you haven't already done so on this channel. Thank you for weighing in, sharing your thoughts, and keeping some good questions in here. Y'all are brilliant Georgia football fans, asking some good ones. Y'all have a great weekend of phenomenal college football, and we'll see you back here 8:30 tomorrow night on the Georgia Show. Peace.